Build your retirement budget around the average Social Security check SSA, puts that at $2,071 a month for a single retired worker in 2026, and your household target may be running nearly $3,000 a month short of the median for households headed by someone 65 or older. Not the wrong account, not the wrong fund, the wrong ruler. The number the government reports every January measures one person's check, not a household, not what your bills actually need to see every month. Your grocery bill and your Medicare premium do not know or care which column the money came from. They only know the household total. And the average benefit is not a household total. That gap has a name: the difference between a single check average and the real household median for Americans 65 and older. Carry the wrong benchmark for a decade, and you can believe you are doing fine while the real middle line sits almost $3,000 a month above where you have been looking. I am your guide to real-world retirement income, the numbers that decide where your household stands. In the next 12 minutes, the real household median line, the Social Security dependency trap, and exactly what each level buys after Medicare and the IRS take their cut. By the end, you will know where your household stands, not where you assume it does. Here is the first surprise before we even get into the math. According to the Social Security Administration's own numbers, roughly half of Americans 65 and older get 50% or more of their total income from that single check. About 1 in 4 get 90% or more of their income from it alone. That is not a footnote. That is a huge share of the country's retirees, running their entire household on a number most of them have never actually compared to anything else. Quick favor before we get into it: if figuring out exactly where your household stands is useful to you, tap like and subscribe now, so the next breakdown finds you. Part 1. The average was never the benchmark. Start with what average actually means here. $2,071 a month is the average benefit for a single retired worker as of January 2026, after the 2.8% cost of living adjustment. It is one person's check. It says nothing about a household. For a retired couple where both spouses draw their own benefit, the government's estimate is $3,089 a month, combined. Still Social Security only. No pension, no part-time paycheck, no withdrawal from a retirement account. And that average hides a wide spread. The maximum benefit for someone who waited until full retirement age this year is $4,152 a month, more than double the average. So even before you ask what else is coming into a household, the single check labeled average can mean two very different lives depending on where you land inside that range. Here is the mistake almost everyone makes without noticing. They hear average Social Security check, picture their own deposit, and quietly conclude they are doing about as well as everyone else. That comparison was never valid. The average benefit measures one income stream. Whether you are ahead of or behind most retired households depends on every dollar landing in your account, added together. Do not compare your check. Compare your household's total. Part 2. The real line. Median household income after 65. Here is the number that actually splits retired households into a top half and a bottom half. According to the Census Bureau's most recent income report, the median household income, where the head of household is 65 or older, comes to roughly $59,648 a year. That works out to about $4,971 a month. That figure includes some households where someone is still working part-time alongside Social Security, so it is not a pure retirement-only number, but it is still the real dividing line, because your grocery bill and your property tax bill do not care whether the money came from a paycheck or a benefit check. Now put the two numbers next to each other. A single retiree living on the average Social Security check alone brings in $24,852 a year, 42% of the real household median. A couple living on the average combined benefit brings in $37,068 a year, 62% of the median. Neither one gets close, which means for most households, Social Security by itself, even at the so-called average, does not reach the real middle of the pack. Something else has to be stacked on top of it, a pension, continued work, or withdrawals from savings just to reach the number that puts you at the 50th percentile. Part 3. Why so many people never notice the gap. This is where that first number comes back in. Roughly half of retirees get 50% or more of their income from Social Security alone. About a quarter get 90% or more. If you are one of them, the average check is not background noise for you, it is nearly your entire financial picture. And because that one number is also the number reported every January when the cost of living adjustment hits the news, it becomes the only benchmark most people ever hear. So here is what actually happens. A large share of retired households anchor their sense of status to a number that was only ever measuring one income stream, and that stream, on its own, sits well under the real household median. Nobody sends a notice that says, "You are now in the bottom half." The gap shows up quietly, one thinner month at a time, usually a decade in, right when the furnace or the roof or a health scare says otherwise. Part 4. What each level actually funds after Medicare and the IRS. Numbers on a page are one thing. What lands in your account after Medicare premiums and federal tax is the number that pays your bills. Run all three levels the same way, and you can compare apples to apples. Case 1. The single retiree on the average Social Security check. That is $24,852 a year. For a single filer, Social Security only becomes partly taxable once your provisional income half your benefit, plus any other income crosses $25,000. Half of this benefit is $12,426 with no other income on top of it. Under the threshold. Zero federal tax on Social Security. Subtract the standard Medicare Part B premium, $202.90 a month, $2,434.80 for the year. Spendable, roughly $22,417 a year, about $1,868 a month. Case 2. The couple on the average combined benefit, $37,068 a year. For a married couple, the provisional income threshold is $32,000. Half their combined benefit is $18,534 still under the line, so again, zero federal tax on Social Security. Subtract Medicare. Part B for two people, $4,869.60 a year. Spendable, about $32,198 a year, roughly $2,683 a month. Case 3. The household that sits at the actual median, $59,648 a year. For illustration, say that is the same couple's combined Social Security, $37,068, plus $22,580 from a modest pension. Their provisional income is now half their Social Security, $18,534, plus the pension, $41,114 total. That crosses the $32,000 line, so some Social Security becomes taxable. By the IRS formula, $4,557 of it. Add that to the pension income, and their adjusted gross income comes to $27,137. Here is the twist. Between the 2026 joint standard deduction for a married couple, $32,200, the extra deduction for being 65 or older, $1,650 each, and the temporary senior deduction added for 2025 through 2028, $6,000 each for households within the income phase-out range. Their total deductions come to $47,500, well above their adjusted gross income. Their federal taxable income is zero. They owe no federal income tax at all. Subtract only Medicare. Part B for two, $4,000, $869.60 a year, and this median household keeps roughly $54,778, about $4,565 a month, spendable. Line the three up. The single retiree comparing himself to the average check, about $1,800 a month, spendable. The couple doing the same, about $2,700. The household that actually sits at the real median, about $4,500. That gap between assuming you are average and actually reaching the median is worth close to $2,000 a month in real spending power every single month, for as long as retirement lasts. Part 5. How to find out where you actually stand. First, add up every source landing in your household, both Social Security checks if you are married, any pension, part-time income, and planned withdrawals from savings. Compare that total, not your Social Security deposit alone, to roughly $60,000 a year, or about $5,000 a month. That is your real test. Second, if you have not filed for Social Security yet, your claiming age is still the biggest lever you control. Delaying from 62 to 70 can raise your own benefit by roughly 77% for life. That single decision can move a household from below the median to above it. Third, before you assume a bigger check means a bigger tax bill, run your own provisional income against the real thresholds $25,000 and $34,000 if you file single, $32,000 and $44,000 if you file jointly. As the median household example just showed, plenty of retirees who look average on paper owe nothing at all once the standard deduction and the extra deductions for being over 65 stack up. Fourth, if your household total lands below that median line, that is not a verdict on your retirement. It is a number to plan around. Closing a $2,000 a month gap usually does not mean overhauling everything. It means adding one more stream, part-time work, an annuity that floors your income, or a spouse's benefit that has not been claimed yet. Your rank was never the number printed on your Social Security statement. It is what actually lands in your account after Medicare and the IRS take their cut from every source added together. That is the only number worth comparing yourself to. This is not financial advice and not legal advice. Either run your own household's real numbers with a fiduciary before you make a claiming or withdrawal decision based on any of it. If this gave you a number worth checking against your own, tap like, subscribe for the next breakdown, and drop the word rank in the comments if you want the follow-up on closing the gap. The household that knows where it actually stands is the household that can build from there.